Okay, so why it's important to know what you want in your relationship. So here we go. So this is um and now we've got a little bit of an echo there, but I'm going to let it stay um as the feedback and the playback is a little different. So trying to get used to this technology, adding in a PowerPoint presentation. So I just wanted to give you why is it important to know what you want in a relationship? I've already said that once. So, and I guess I can see myself now up in the corner of the video. So I was trying to figure all that out. So I apologize. This is a new thing that I've tried to add so that I have some visuals. But tonight it's going to be just a few slides, 10 or 11 slides. And so we can go back to where we were starting. Why it's important to know what you want in your relationship. Why is it so important to know? I think there's a lot of people don't understand how important it is to know what am I here for? And I would say typically it's some of the guys that I talk to, and hopefully this will be helpful for any of you guys out there and any women who aren't quite sure what they want. You know, a lot of people will say, well, I want love, I want affection, things like that, you know, early is the basic idea. But there's a lot more, and I want to go into that in another video, and I've mentioned it in previous videos, just the wants, needs, longings, desires, qualities that we want. But sometimes we just don't know, right? I'll ask somebody, not always, you know, not always the guy. I'm not trying to pick on guys, but sometimes we just go, I don't know what I want. We probably do, by the way. We probably do know what we want. We're just not sure how to get that. So, and like, what is it exactly? You know, and so how do we get what we want if we don't know where we're headed? And there's a lot of reasons I kind of wanted to bring this up is because we can get stuck. And I want to teach about how to know where you're you know, what you're wanting. Our feelings will help us to understand that. But sometimes we're just might be going, gosh, I don't know what I want. So, or we might think we don't need anything, right? I don't need anything from anyone, which is probably not true when I've worked with couples. So when I work with couples, you know, we're talking about, you know, I'll ask the person, what do they want? I want love. I want to be cherished. I want to be appreciated. I want to be heard. I want to be known, things like that. But we're maybe not motivated. Maybe that's part of why I wanted to focus on that with this presentation is because we sometimes just let that happen or put it in the background and we just, you know, we don't know what we're wanting, what we're needing. We feel like we don't have many things, you know, that we might need. Or I just want to make her happy. Sometimes I hear that. The guy might say, I just want to make her happy. So I just want to go to the next slide because I go tragic. This recipe. I mean, it can work. I mean, I'm sure for a lot of us, we can make it work. And of course, we want to make our partner happy some of the time, but sometimes that comes at a huge cost is really where I'm going with that, is that we don't really have a direction of what we want. And if our spouse is asking us what do you know, they're telling us what we want, if they're articulating these things, then what happens is it, you know, can end up in a lot of heartache. So it's important to listen to our heart. How do we listen to our heart, right? What are we wanting? What are we longing for? The way that we know is by often those feelings that aren't real um, satisfactory, things that are unpleasant, sadness, grief, panic, anxiety, frustration, anger. Those are telling us that there are important things in this relationship that I'm wanting. I just need to know what it is. So, but we can start by listening to our heart, and listening to our feelings is part of that. And so what will that give us? It will give us internal motivation, right? Versus extrinsic motivation. So with the other, here's why I got motivated to talk about this tonight. I was going to talk more about the needs themselves, the wants, the desires, the longings. And I've come up with a worksheet that I thought might be helpful for some of my clients, because sometimes, I mean, I use this verbally, but some of us are visual, and I thought that might be helpful for them to pull off. And then how do we work towards, getting those things? But if our partner knows, a lot of what she wants, or, if the other person knows what they want and they're asking for it, it can be overwhelming, and it just feels like we're just doing things for them. And then what happens is we're really being extrinsically motivated. If we go back a couple slides, right? I just want to make her happy. It's an extrinsic motivation, not an internal motivation. So when we try to make changes, so this is how it will show up for couples, is that it will be, that guy will, stop being motivated. And I hear this with guys who are trying to work on their relationship, and maybe it's down the road a ways towards separation or divorce. But it can be very early on too, when there's inklings about that, or hints at that, or mentions of that. And so the guy goes, well, I just want to make her happy. I just want her to stay with me. How come? That's really what we're asking, right? And that's internal, not external. And one of the problems with that isn't just, it's not like that's that big a problem, but part of the tragic part of it is, that person, that guy might go, gosh, I'm getting tired of just doing everything she wants, and the honey-do list, and doing this and doing this and doing, or I have to figure all this out, right? And I don't feel like a part of the relationship. And often the woman can be carrying the relationship, and socially she has a history, stereotypically, traditionally, of being in charge of relationships, which they are, many women, not all, generalization there. Women are very, they're kind of made for that. Many women, there are plenty of guys, we are made for a relationship too, slightly different. But women are, just because of biology, they can be thinking about multiple aspects of a relationship, what this guy wants, what she wants, and that's okay, but it can become a burden. And that's what I hear is, and it will show up in ways like going out on a date. So I don't know about you, but sometimes, and I, it's not like I'm immune from it or haven't done some of this myself, or have some of these same kinds of issues, right? So, but, the woman might say, I'd really like you to plan a date. And she has, come up with many, many ideas over time. And now she'd like this guy to, her partner, to come up with a date. She's tired of planning that. She's been working, she has children, she's doing housework. Hopefully those things are being shared, fairly equitably and equally, but not always, right? That's kind of another piece of that. And so women get tired, and I could see why. They're going, why am I having to take care of him too? And unfortunately, it comes out sometimes as this is my other child or my fourth child, if there's three children, and then the guy might feel insulted. And that's the motivation sometimes behind that, right? Is if I just try to, well, let me go back to that piece of just trying to make her happy. She's in charge right there. She doesn't always want to be in charge typically. I mean, some women will probably want more of that, and then they're blamed, like you're always bossing me around. You're a bee. Yeah, I'm like, oh my gosh, because does that make sense? Hopefully, it's not as organized as I'd like to be because I actually created a different presentation for today, kind of last minute. But hopefully this resonates inside for both men and women, right? And they were like, I really want the guy to come up with the idea for the date or know what's important or know what needs to be done in the house. In some households, the woman does the majority of the housework, and she may be working just as much as the guy. And so she's doing all these things and she's worn out. She wants participation from her partner. And so, it's not just about what makes, okay, honey, whatever you want to do, so we'll go do it. Well, do you want to do that if you're the guy, right? Or if you're the woman, instead of her having to figure it out for both being engaged, talking through what that date might look like, or taking charge sometimes and then figuring it out. Well, and then the follow come back to that I've heard on numerous occasions from couples is, well, then I decide, then when I decide and I got it all set up and she doesn't want to go there. Okay, well, that may be that night she just may not want to go there, or she doesn't really feel like it's a good fit. And if we are not listening to her, we're not listening to ourselves, which by the way helps us to listen to others as we're in touch with ourselves, right? Slightly different, but it helps if we're in touch with ourselves. What do I like? What do I want to do? Where do I want to go for a date, for example? So then we'll go and we'll be listening, listening to our heart. Then we can also listen to hers. And so when we're doing this, it can be satisfying. And I jumped ahead and then went back, but I'm forwarded it back to this slide of internally motivated. So we're following up. We have some energy around this instead of it being a chore, avoiding it because we don't want to get it wrong. Well, she may not like it. Well, we can come up with a backup, or we can, say, this is what I thought that you liked. You had said you wanted to go to this place, or you always seem to like it. Well, I don't want to go to the same old place, she might say. Well, okay. So then we can talk it through, right? And then you go, well, we don't have time, or I have reservations. Then we can figure it out. We can hone in, but we've got some direction and less is falling on her shoulders. Even if she's not perfectly happy or she doesn't want to go, you can cancel, hopefully. If you bought tickets, and, that might be a little harder, but the relationship. And then it comes back to, what do I want in my relationship? How do I want it to be? What do we want to do? Why did I buy them? I bought them for her and now she doesn't want them. Now I'm angry. Well, what did I want? Did I plan ahead? Did I talk it through? If it was supposed to be a surprise, no, we probably didn't talk it through. But if it didn't have to be a surprise, we could go, here's what, without being coached through every single step. So-and-so's in town, or this concert's coming up, or, whatever, this place is playing live music. I know you like this kind of jazz music, blues, whatever it might be. You go, oh, but we're motivated. That doesn't mean we're always going to hit it on the target where we both are happy, but we can feel more in control too, right? We don't feel like we're being pushed around. So it helps to avoid resentment, to feel like we're just doing things whatever she wants. That tends to last. It's okay sometimes. Sure, you just go, oh well, I don't really care where we go, we can go and do this thing that she wants to do, right? Or how do we want to be in the relationship? Because there's going to be differences between us, so it can give the direction. And that doesn't mean she's going in the exact same direction, but she may want to do that. If you go, oh, you really want to go there, she might go. Because I have found, by the way, to interrupt that thought, is that women often, and I'm talking obviously about male female relationships, serious ones, it could apply in other lesbian or gay relationships, slightly different dynamics, but not necessarily, right? And I'm just talking in generalities, just especially talking to guys because of where they're at. And I hear this a lot, and I go, and then there's competing priorities, but let's pause on that for the moment. I get direction about what I want, and then I can talk to my partner and learn and share, what do we want to have, right? So, um, so we have that kind of option, but we're moving in a direction. And even if it's not the best, oh, I was going to mention, women often, I have noticed, often are accommodating. They accommodate a lot. They have a natural biology to do more of that, until they're burned out or whatever. And I'm not saying they have to. I have just noticed that often they're just kind of flexible to go with another person. So, but if you just make it about them, about her, it may not be so fun. But if you're trying to take her into consideration for a date, for example, that's wonderful. But just in general, what do you want? How do you want it? So she doesn't have to guess, right? So she knows, even though she probably knows you very well, it's easier and there's more time and attention for her. So, gosh, before I forget, yeah, there's the equality piece. I was going to jump back, and I don't think I have a slide, about just how that affects couples. Just pause that thought. I've lost my train of thought, and hopefully it will come back before I'm finished with this presentation, this talk. But equality, right? We want equality. We want to have some equality. And so in the relationship, so the guy and the woman, or the woman and the woman, or the guy and the guy, right? We want some equality. Often we're wanting that. And so sometimes it's not equal. But if we know what we want, how we want to be treated, how we want to treat our partner, what is the end, the intention, what is it that we value, okay? And then we can end up with closeness. That tends to be a reason we want to be connected, at least in theory. Some of us have issues that are going to make that harder, unfortunately. So if you can't have that, you're not as close. But how much do you need closeness? And you may want more closeness than your partner. You may like more affection. You may like more touching than she does, or vice versa. And where we like to be touched, all of those things. And then we can be fully, our heart can be full. We can feel more satisfied, fulfilled in all those needs, and kind of getting into some of the needs along the way. But just the reason that we want to have that, right? What is our motive? Where are we headed? Oh, I know the thing that will show up. Well, I don't have time to figure this out might be a problem. Well, we, you might not have that much time. It's not like you have to spend hours and hours. You might, I mean, then that's okay if you do, and I encourage that. But if you don't have a lot of time, if you're really busy with work and things like that. But what I notice is that guys will often be so preoccupied with their job. They have a lot of energy around their job. So their needs there, right? So, but we don't communicate that. What is it that I want? I want my partner to understand my commitment to my work, right? But I want to be close too. And she may not feel like she has enough time together to feel close. Or we're actually not present. We're so preoccupied by work issues, challenges, things that we've done, remorse, or whatever it is, that we have clashing priorities now. But what I find is guys are fairly quick to talk about, not all guys, but fairly quick to go, this is what I want in my job. This is where I'm heading. At least for guys who are really motivated, about their career, ambitious, they feel a strong drive to achieve, or, that kind of thing. And the problem is that, if she gives up a lot over time, and we haven't considered what we want in the relationship, how do we want her to treat us? Well, now she's mad. And I've seen this down 20 years, 30 years down the road. And if she has given up a lot, not maybe for her career, but maybe she's given up a career, or it's focused so much on his career that sometimes they're very angry. And then what I've heard guys say is, look how angry she is. Why would I be motivated? Because we weren't really clear, right? What did we want to happen? What was our intention? At work, we know what, like if we have a career path we might be headed towards, we have some ideas. But if we don't have any idea what we want in a partner and what that would look like and feel like to us, right? Well, I want to have sex. Well, if we're not emotionally close, sometimes that's hard. Sometimes the woman wants sex more often and the guy doesn't feel close, but it's hard if we're not, figuring that out. And then what happens is we can be closer, not like it's all magical. 10 slides, I'm on the 10th slide here. Yeah, but there's more opportunity for that to happen, and we can talk it through and have real communication to figure out those priorities. If that makes sense to you. Hopefully it does. So I hopefully gave you just some simple, I was trying to be more simple. I can get into so many, we're complex beings, which means you get one complex being and another complex being, and then it's like exponentially more complex in many ways. Not always, in many ways it's simpler, but if we can be on the same page, we can be supportive of each other and we can be close. But sometimes getting there or staying in those places is a little harder. But this probably is the ultimate goal for many couples, and that's why I put it there. And I go, guys, if you're the struggle, and I'm gearing it towards guys, but it could be the woman who's struggling with this. Just women tend to generally want that close relationship, want support, want understanding, want assistance, want mutuality, want reciprocity. It is, they want to have equal pay. And some wives or partners might be paid more, but sometimes equivalents, they're not being paid more. Sometimes they're working harder with the children and the home. And some of us may not have the same capacity. So how do we work that out then? Because we probably, hopefully, want to have fair, equitable, equal relationships. So, but some of us use up all our energy around work, and we have to well, we don't have to, but it behooves us to figure out if that's important. Because if it is important, then we have other choices, right? We can make other choices. Hopefully that makes sense to you. I know I say that. So my intention was just to invite you to think about that, trying to make these invitations. Like you get a choice on whether I do that. And here, when I work with folks, whether they're individually or couples, sometimes it's relationship counseling for one, or working on those, we can learn to be in touch with those pieces. There's a real benefit for us. There can be. And it doesn't always have to take a lot of time, because we know when we're off, we're going to have painful or unpleasant feelings. So that's telling us, what and how come. Then the next step is how come? What is that need that's going unmet? And here I'll mention this again. I use the word needs because but it will conjure up this insatiable, constant neediness or whatever. And that's really not true. We can function pretty well, right? So with all of, we can function with a bunch of those needs met, but if we don't know what they are. So sometimes when couples come in, it's communication. We're not really communicating. We're arguing about things that we're wanting that we're not getting. And how do we get them? And sometimes that approach. And then I'll be glad to, I do coaching, I do counseling with couples around those pieces. So glad to do that. You can reach out to me if that's what you need. But hopefully this is helping move us in that direction. So if you just notice when you're not so happy in your marriage or your partnership, like, oh, or you're like, what caused it to end? Not just for her, but also for me. How come I didn't participate in it possibly as much as she wanted? That is a common reason. Or why did she stop? Why did she withdraw? And then guys will be angry about that. So it's really complex. Hopefully you got some ideas and you feel a little more motivated in that direction and just making that choice. It's not always a simple, easy thing, but it can be not so difficult. Okay. So here we go. And so I just want to thank you for your time, for listening. I'm going to try, I think one of my next live presentations, live talks will be about the how to choose, some of these areas, because sometimes you're just like, what is going on? And here's a hint. It isn't always just help with the dishes. That is a piece. But what does that give me when I do dishes, right? Some people really like clean, like they don't like any dishes in the sink or whatever, and the other partner may or may not. Okay, so what am I needing with that? That's probably not the thing that I'm talking about, but you like order, that kind of thing. And then one of the ways that I get it is and here's where you go. If it's something like that, and you can do this about any need at this point, what is it that I want that thing? I want to have, the vacuum the carpet or sweep the floor, or, household chores show up. But that will be a common area. Or talk about finances. Why is that important to you? Because it's important to me, because, and that can help too. That is a bigger kind of need. The other one is a way to meet a need, typically, in the way I define those needs, wants, longings, desires, values. Okay. And I plan to talk about those more. And I have like a worksheet I've been developing, so we can go there and just have some prompts to go, oh yeah, it's that kind of connection, that kind of participation. I've used those words throughout. Okay. But those are what drives us. That's who we are, right? If we're just meeting other people, we're not some sort of robot kind of being, and it feels like a one up, one down kind of thing, which I mentioned could contribute to a resentment. So there's that's why we're so complex. See what happens. So hopefully that makes sense to you. Okay. So I am going to stop sharing, and then I'm going to be back on the screen there, and thank you so much.